Test, test. Okay, levels look good. Hey, how's it going?
Am I doing this right? I never used this.
Oh, yeah. Your video's some kind of weird green screen, but other than that, it's good.
All right. This is gonna be streamed.
I am streaming it to to my channel, but just privately. And I'm not going to make it public unless you're okay with that at the end.
I'm okay with streaming publicly.
Okay. Well, I mean, I've already got the stream set up private, so I mean, I'll make it public at the end if we both agree on that.
If we both agree.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
so I mean, this is the first time I've ever done anything like this, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be like, hey, I want to put this out there myself.
Yeah. I might say something. I get it.
No, I might be just put like be like a total idiot and be like, I don't want to put myself being an idiot on the internet.
Well, I think that's half of the fun, isn't it? Of being on the internet.
Well, yeah, for some people, I suppose. So,
All right.
mhm.
Do you have a list of questions then?
I
Like,
have some questions that I wanted to start to ask you to start with, and then we'll just see how it goes from there. So I want to start with you believe in a chaos god, right?
yeah, I would say. Yeah, I would say God is chaos.
God is chaos. Okay.
So yeah, I wouldn't say there's a. Well, I wouldn't say there's a chaos god. I mean, they could be representatives for chaos, and you
Okay.
can call them, gods of chaos, but they wouldn't be God, capital G God.
Okay. Now, is this some version of like your interpretation of the God of the Bible, or is it a different God altogether?
Well, I think the God of the Bible, the Bible of Islam. While on paper they're supposed to be the same God. When Jesus talks of the Father, when he says nobody has ever seen that Father, well, that makes absolute sense to me. Nobody could ever see God. Well, in Islam they'll say something similar,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think they're both hinting at the same God. Because if you in Shangdi, which is the first monotheist religion of China, they just straight out say God is chaos. And if you look at the rituals in the practices of Shangdiism, it's very similar to Islam. You're never to make idols of God. You are to prostrate. How the Muslims do their bowing,
Mm-hmm.
and they also have like the sense. They'll put sense. I mean, I'm not sure what they call that black cube in Islam. Not the Kabbalah, but I forget the name. But you know the big square the Muslims go to. They'll have incense in there.
Okay. So, so would you? So it sounds to me like at least there's more than one religion. Like, as far as I would say, are completely separate religions. But you think they're all worshiping the same God then?
Ultimately, I don't think they know who ultimately they're worshiping. For example, of course, in Christianity, it's all over the place. They know Jesus. They'll say Jesus is God, but they can't really, and then they'll say who that is, but they can't really do that with the Father or the Spirit. It's this sort of nebulous spirit that's out there. Somewhere out there in outer space to them, or somewhere, or maybe outer counter space or somewhere. But I think ultimately they're hinting at the same God. Well, I think Islam is closer to chaos, to the true belief of monotheism of this one ultimate, a lot more than Christianity. I think ultimately both of them are still like talking fundamentally about the same God.
Okay. Um. Now, when you say God is chaos, does that mean like is this does God have intentions, or is it just like chaos is a force of nature and that's what you call God?
No, God is a mind, so He does have intentions.
Okay.
So when it was in the Bible that God separated the darkness from the light. And he saw that it was good. So that's a clear display of intention.
Sure. I was just clarifying. Some people, say, whatever caused the Big Bang is God,
Oh yeah,
and it's like,
more of
well,
a
that doesn't mean it has intentions. So I was just
yeah
clarifying that your God does have intentions.
yeah. I'm not a pantheist or a pantheistic version of chaosism.
Okay. Let's see. What about religions that like aren't monotheistic? Do you think they worship this chaos god or god of
Yeah,
chaos?
yes. Even in pantheist religions, even Egyptians. they have multiple gods. Ultimately, they would still talk about the one true ultimate being chaos, and they just straight out say it's chaos. They're not vague about it. Even in Greek and Roman, they have a pantheon of gods, but ultimately they'll say the one true ultimate is still chaos. So my religion is nothing new. I'm just practicing the oldest religion.
Okay. Um, let's see. Are there any religions that you would say don't have any part of, like, they're not, they're whatever they're worshiping is not this god, or is it?
Uh, I've yet to find one. Well, I haven't studied that many religions. I
Sure.
mean, I studied the big ones, like indigenous. Even in indigenous, they'll hint at chaos. I'm not sure if they have a word for chaos because I don't know that language. It's kind of like a dead language, so there
Right.
isn't much we can go off. But in the major religions and people who have like major historical records of the religion, Egyptian, Islam, Changdi, they all straight out say chaos.
Okay. So basically, if if a religion mentions chaos, you take that to be your god, or God.
Well, they mention chaos as the ultimate source. So every time you go to, like, if you go to the Greek pantheon, it's a family tree,
Hmm.
and at the beginning of the family tree, it'll be chaos.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, so like I have not sure, like because there's the Aztecs. Um, not quite. I haven't dug too deep into the Aztecs, but I think they do mention chaos.
Okay. Let's see here. So, um, you believe this God created the universe, though?
Yeah, I believe created everything. Yeah,
Well, yeah, we'll say reality.
yeah,
Other than itself, it created the rest of reality.
yeah.
Okay. Um, so a lot of people see order in reality. Is this God capable of creating order?
Absolutely. I mean, order must presuppose something. So there has to be something prior to order. Because if order is just innate, then you could say things just make themselves. So they behind order, there's intention. So you have to say, well, there's something before order that cannot be order or is orderly, and that would only be one thing. Order presupposes chaos.
Oh, okay. But
So
but why does you said order presupposes chaos? Is that what you said?
yeah,
Okay. So, but that doesn't mean that order has to, or chaos has to come before order. You could have order without chaos, couldn't you?
order without chaos.
No,
Well,
no, not order. Like it could be that, like, would let me see if I can think of how to. So you're saying order came out of chaos, but couldn't it be
yeah,
that chaos came out of order?
no, that's not possible
Why not?
because order can only uh, be determined. Well, it's not determined. It cannot be, it cannot create the opposite. So if you have order, it would only create more. It's the purpose of order is to make things orderly.
Hmm.
So if things, if the purpose of order is things make things orderly, how can chaos be orderly? Chaos is not orderly, so it cannot come from order.
Well, but I mean, isn't the opposite true also, that order isn't chaotic? So how could it come from chaos?
Well, yeah, order isn't chaos, but order needs to come from somewhere. It's not just it is because it is.
Okay, but chaos. So chaos is because it is, but
Well,
order
chaos
came
is
out of
well,
chaos.
Well, chaos is God, right?
Uh-huh.
And what is God?
I mean, I don't know.
Well, all theists would say, maybe some Christians wouldn't say, but all theists would say God is a mind.
Oh, okay. I thought you were asking like more, not just one property of God, but what? Okay, I get what you're asking.
But it's not a property. It's more like what is it, right? What is God? God isn't a hamster. He's not like a Twinkie or a flying spaghetti monster out there in outer space. He's a he's the source for the source for all reality, and that would be a mind. I mean, that's what it would have to be.
Okay, but so if God is chaos, is he other
Mhm.
things as well, or is he just chaos?
Well, he's just the mind, chaos, the great chaos or the great mind.
Can you define chaos for me?
Chaos is a
Like in terms of this God, can you
yeah,
define what you mean when you say chaos? When you're saying God is chaos?
well, what I'm saying chaos, I mean the mind, the great mind,
So chaos is so you're when you say chaos, all you mean is that it's a mind,
the great mind, the
the great
mind.
mind though.
Yeah,
So
the
you
mind.
don't like when people think chaos, they don't. That's
They
not
think
normally what
no,
they would think of.
yeah. When people think chaos, they usually think disorder. A bunch of random things, static. That's not what I'm saying. That would be disorder because it's just there's a bunch of junk out there. That would be disorder, but it's not chaos. Chaos is it's not a form; it is formless. So I can't apply a form to that which it is formless.
Okay, okay. So out of curiosity, I mean, so to me, like people think of chaos and they think of this thing, and it's not what you mean. Is there a better word that you can think of?
Well, no, they're like if God is a mind, right?
Yeah.
A mind isn't a thing, so I can't use like a thing to compare to a mind because there would be a contradiction. It's not a thing. So there's nothing to compare, something thingly to compare to mind because the mind isn't a thing.
Right, but you're using chaos. So I mean, it doesn't have to be a thing. Chaos is a concept.
No,
Um, it's not. Okay.
no, chaos is the state of it's the mind. Now there can be now the mind can bring forth order by thinking, by thinking in steps.
Okay.
So it is because like in the same way, your computer does quote unquote thinking, but there's components to it. There's one step after the other step, and we can tear down the computer and look at the components. Like there's the quote unquote the mind of the computer, but you can't do that with the mind of a human being or the mind of God because there isn't any components to look at.
Okay. So like people's minds are chaos also. Is that? But not like the chaos, but they are like some
Yeah,
form of
so
chaos.
yeah, they have chaos within them. They have the potential. They have the ability to tap into chaos. So what excuse me, what gives ability? What gives you ever heard of Buddhism, right?
I mean, I've heard of it. I
Buddhism.
never looked into it very much, but I've heard of
Okay.
it.
Well, the difference between Buddhism and the other major religions is that Buddhism denies the self, while we all other religions like Christianity, Islam still acknowledge the self. So we still believe the reason you have free will is because the mind that God has given you is independent of His mind, but it is still contained within His mind. So it's this while we have the potential for chaos, which is, we have a mind, and that's why we have free will. And the reason we have free will is because our minds are separate.
Okay, and you said our minds are contained within God's mind.
Yeah, because it's the mind that sustains our mind.
I'm sorry. Well, I couldn't quite get what you just said. The minds are the same as the mind.
No, it's the mind from which we came from.
Okay.
So there's the great mind from which other minds, give their consciousness.
Okay. So, can you give me maybe a? Is there any way you could give me an analogy? Because I'm having trouble trying to figure out what you mean by that.
Okay. Because I do try to put things in more materialistic concepts so people can understand this. So, for example, you can have, your computer would be the great mind, right? And
Okay.
let's say you're playing Minecraft. And within Minecraft, you can make another computer, another CPU, in which you can play Minecraft. So it's akin to that. So why the computer made within Minecraft is its own, it's its own CPU, it's its own mind. It's still dependent on the greater, computer that is actually outside the game, with the computer that contains the game.
Okay. So in a way, we're like using God's mind to do our mind.
It's not that you're using his mind; it's that he has given you mind, but ultimately that mind it's sustained by him. It's produced by him.
Okay. All right. And so I'm sorry to go back to this. I'm still not clear
Yeah,
on
because
what chaos is. Like,
well, chaos is mind, and there's nothing, in the mind is formless. There's nothing comparable to it. So I can only make an analogy in the way it does things. So a mind thinks. That's all it can do. It can't be, it can't be something physical. It can't be a speaker or a phone. But I can only do comparisons by what it does. So it can think, and it can think logically, and through that logic, that's through ordering things. That is why it's able to do logic, and that's why it's so special.
okay. So why call it chaos if it doesn't have like, the properties traditionally associated with chaos? Why not just call it a mind?
It's called chaos because they call it the great chaos, which is just saying the great mind. There's really no difference. That's why I say God is chaos and chaos is God.
Who's
The,
who,
the
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the Christian can't do the same. So if you ask a Christian, God is Jesus, they have to say no because they'll contradict themselves. And in Islam, if you ask a Muslim, God is Allah, they'll say yes. And you ask them Allah is God, they'll say yes. So we acknowledge that there's only one and there's nothing else to it. Because there's nothing else comparable to it.
Okay, so well, I guess what I'm asking is why choose the word chaos? Sorry, and you also said they call it chaos. Who's they?
Every religion since the beginning of time.
Okay. Okay, so you're just calling it chaos because that's what it's been called before.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, fundamentally, that's what logically you get back to. I'm not sure if you ever heard the transcendental argument for God.
I probably have. I don't remember which one that is exactly.
It basically asks, how do we get logic?
Okay.
So like, because ultimately you have to ground it. You can't just say, it is because it is, because then it becomes a tautology and it's no longer logical. So there has to be something grounding logic, and so ultimately it gets you back to God. Of course, it can only get you back to one God, and this is why the Christians really can't use a transcendental argument for God, because it gets you back to one, not three. And the question now becomes, who is that God? And basically, everybody has come to the conclusion that it's chaos.
Mm, okay. So you said that's what you logically get to if you work your way back. Can you take me through that logic?
Sure. So first, first you need to understand it's very simple. Like what is necessary for logic, right? And that would be order. And then this simple next step is, what presuppose, so what does order presuppose? It presupposes chaos. It's really that simple.
Okay. That's it right there. Order is necessary
Y-
for logic, and order presupposes chaos.
Yeah, that was ultimately my
And
debate with. I'm not sure if you know Darth Dawkins.
I'm familiar with him. I haven't seen. I haven't. I know the name.
Yeah, he's very infamous.
Yeah.
Yeah, ultimately, yeah, I had a debate with him, and that's ultimately where I got him, because he wouldn't answer that question, because he knew where he got him. Gets you back to chaos.
Right. Okay.
Next question.
Yeah. I'm trying. I'm trying. I don't. I don't think I can't wrap my mind around this.
Well, you're going down the rabbit hole, and I think this is something you kind of want to ease yourself into.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, what I want to do is know what I'd like to be able to do is be able to like argue for you if you weren't there, and
Yeah,
I don't think I could do that, and I don't know how to.
but
I don't even really know how to get there because I don't understand like
well, if
the way how I'm not sure how you're getting there, and like chaos seems to me like it's it almost seems like a misdirect because you don't mean chaos if I'm understanding correctly. You actually mean just a mind.
but the
I mean,
mind is, what is the mind, right? The mind is chaos.
I
Now, for
why do you
example,
say the mind is chaos? I mean, so
uh,
you say the mind is chaos, and you say what is chaos? It's the mind. That's why is the mind chaos?
well, simply look inwardly. Like if you were to if you were to look in the mirror and hold your mind to a mirror, what would you see? It's chaos. It's not it is formless. It is without form. And that without form, that which is formless is chaos. It's kind of like you, you, AI, right? When it tries to do visuals, there's something usually wonky about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
They'll have like an extra finger, or the leg is in the wrong position. It's like it'll it's very it's very chaotic. And but it's an attempt at what God is ultimately doing. God god is taking the formless and manifesting form. So it's using chaos, it's using its mind to produce order. And so this order must come from chaos.
So when
Because
you say you say God is chaos, and I know like I God is formless, but um like the mind isn't chaos. It's like say
absolutely is. Uh,
well I'm trying to give you my understanding, and then we can see where I'm going wrong. But
Hmm.
so for you, um, the chaos is like kind of like the body of God.
It's not a body.
I
My,
know it's not a
mine,
body. It's not a body, but like whatever would be the body, that's what God is,
yeah,
or
it's the
what chaos
what
is
it
for
is.
God.
Yeah, it's the what. So the what, it's it's the chaos. It's the mind.
Okay.
That would be the what. I guess the who would be the chaos. The what would be the mind. The who would be the chaos.
Okay. See, I was thinking of it opposite. Like it would be the what is the chaos and the who is the mind.
Yeah. So the who would be the chaos because it's identifying who he is.
Okay. So how does God create order? If he is chaos, like who he is chaos. How does he create order?
In the same way we create order, it's by process.
Well, but chaos. What processes does chaos have? Like, well, is he pure chaos, or is there parts
No,
of him that are not chaotic?
well, this is the thing. Chaos has the potential for both order and disorder. So chaos doesn't take sides. It can do what it wants. So if it wants to be orderly, that is still within the realm of chaos. No, just because you're a chaos doesn't mean that you're anti-order.
Okay, okay, because I think most people, when you say chaos, that's what they think is the opposite of order,
The
and not.
opposite of yeah, because the opposite of order would be disorder. That would be the opposite of order. But I think many people do misconstrue that. When people when you hear the news, oh, look at the chaos in the streets. What they really mean is look at the disorder in the streets.
Yeah.
That would be the correct term.
Okay. So when you say chaos, you just mean the potential for order and disorder to come in one place.
Yeah, so it's the mind's potential to do order and disorder.
Okay. Okay. Well, um, think that's. I might have to come back and listen to this, and I might have more questions for you in the future. But I think I'll move on to the next thing. Um.
Hmm.
So okay. So you said every breed of dog was created individually. As an example of, like, you think, is that correct? Is that something you believe?
Yeah, absolutely. I think
Okay.
that yeah, that's what distinguishes me from I think that's what distinguishes the true creationists from the wannabe creationists, aka the Christians.
Sure. Okay. So what about breeds of dogs that we like know have come about in, like, say, the last 100 years?
Well, the problem isn't the mixing of dogs. That's not what I'm questioning here. Obviously, you can mix dogs, but the problem is how do you get all dogs from one dog? Not how do you get many dogs into one dog? That's not so. They want to do a little switcheroo with what I'm actually asking. I'm asking them if they're gonna if they're gonna make the claim that all dogs came from the gray wolf. Well, they had to provide evidence. They had to provide at least one transitional between the dogs. They can't even do that.
Oh, okay. But if all breeds were created individually, but we know some breeds were, we have records of when some breeds were created in the last hundred
Well,
years.
we have no we have records of mixed breeds or like the or dogs with Down syndrome, but those are mixed breeds, not pure breeds. So what my question is asking is how do we get these pure breeds? It's not questioning that we can mix breeds and make them mixed breeds.
Okay. So how do you know which breeds are like? if we don't have records of this breed starting, how do you know it wasn't a mixed breed and isn't it is a pure breed?
Simple DNA test would do it. You could just look at the DNA comparison. It's the same way you would do 21andMe, but for dogs.
So, but um, okay. So let's say we have, and I don't. I'm just pulling dog breed out of the air. I don't even know if we know when this dog breed began or not. But let's say we have a black lab, okay, and we do. How would you differentiate this black lab? Let's say the black lab is actually not one of these created dogs, but is some kind of mixed breed. But it's way back in time before we wrote any of this down. Okay, what genetics would you be looking for to say this dog is a pure breed dog versus a mixed breed dog?
Well, I think a black Labrador is a mixed breed.
I'm
So
okay. Pick one dog that you think is a pure breed. I don't know dog breeds, which ones are pure and which ones aren't.
I know the Chihuahua is definitely a mixed breed. I mean,
Okay.
a pure breed. A pure breed.
Okay.
Chihuahua is definitely a pure breed, and we have records of that going like thousands of years.
Okay. But let's so let's say there's a dog like a breed like the Chihuahua that goes back to because you do you think we had records from the very beginning of time?
No, but we do have is we have remains of these dogs, and so we remains which can still be DNA tested. I know fossilization can be like take I'm not sure how long for fossilization take place. I think 20,000 years.
That's I'm somewhere around there. It's 20 20 to 30, I think, somewhere around there. I don't know exactly either.
Yeah, but I think like even though allegedly dogs have been here for like a little bit over 20,000 years, we can still pretty much DNA test all the remains that we have found, and all remains show that the Chihuahua is pure breed, always has been.
Okay, so what you do is what you're saying is if we go back to the earliest dogs we can find, test those genetically, and if the genetics match a breed today, that's a pure breed, and if it doesn't, it's not.
So yeah, if the dog today matches the genetics of that old dog, then it would be pure breed. It's not that the old dog has to match the dog of today.
Okay. Did they have mixed breeds back then?
Of course.
What if we tested one of those mixed breeds and could, would we how do we know that one of those old dogs from back then that was a mixed breed and we
We
tested
would
it when that we then think, oh, this is a pure breed dog, but it's not?
because we would do a DNA comparison. We would compare that DNA to like other dogs. Of course, the DNA would come out showing it's a mixed breed. So if it's like a mixed breed between like a Shih Tzu and a Chihuahua, the DNA comparison would show that.
I mean, so I don't know dog DNA, but it seems to me that like they would all be pretty show that they're related anyway, whether they're pure breed or not. I mean,
Well,
I assume that because people say the the geneticists say that all the dogs descended from the gray wolf, so they would have some kind of reason for doing that. I would assume that some of that reason would be DNA testing.
well, they don't actually base it on the DNA because they don't have any actual genetic evidence for that. What they have is an inference. So they're starting off with the presupposition that evolution is true. Therefore, dogs must trace their ancestry back to the wolf.
Okay.
So it's not built on genetic evidence. There is no like they can't point to like a genetic intermediate and say there's the evidence. What they're doing is working off a precept.
Right, but what I'm saying is, so even if they don't have that, they don't have the link to the gray wolf, but they would still say, I mean, wouldn't it be the case that the dogs we have today would all show that they're genetically related?
Well, you show they are related by presenting a genetic intermediate. You wouldn't do it by basing it off a precept.
So if we if we did if we tested two dogs and they show they're related, even though they're different breeds, the
Yeah,
the reason we say they're related is just because of presupposition.
yeah, it's all based on precept. It's based the reason people say that the Chihuahua and the Pit Bull are quote unquote canine clade cousins. It's because they're working off the precept that evolution is true, which has no genetic evidence to be true.
Okay.
So
So
it's
so how do you tell the so but if they're looking at this and they're seeing these two are related because we've tested DNA and it shows that they're related. What's different about a mixed breed that shows that it's a mixed breed versus uh like if they looked at it, what would they say? How would they say it's that's not right.
but yeah, because I was gonna say they would just look at the genetic markers.
But I mean if they're already looking at the genetic markers and saying they're all related, like what are you seeing that's different?
Well, that's the thing. This is the thing I'm questioning is why are they saying they're related? They're saying they're related based on the precept. I'm saying they're not related because there's a lack of evidence to show that they are related. I'm telling them you have no genetic evidence for this. Why are you saying this? They are saying they're related because they're basing it on the precept that evolution is true. So it's a precept argument as to why they are saying they're related. It's not a logical one. It's a precept one.
So so what I wish I had some more information on what dog DNA testing actually showed, but I don't.
It's real simple. Like there's some websites that'll have the evolutionary tree for dogs, and all the dogs are gonna be separate. There's never gonna be that they'll never show a a dog that is in between the gray wolf, the quote unquote first canine, and whatever end dog you want to choose, whether it be the pit bull, the chihuahua, or German. They'll never show something in between. They will always show that these dogs are cousins, and the way they're attaching them is it's just pure line work. There isn't any actual intermediates there. It's just we drew a line because and we say we can draw this line because our justification is that evolution is true, and that's the precept.
Okay. So if if we do DNA testing and we say these two things are related, do do you think that hasn't happened? That we I mean, let me think. Like we compare the two DNA codes and we say they're you know 99% identical or whatever the number is.
Well, this is the thing. I'm also 99% identical with some person from like Japan, but this is like overwhelmingly missing the point because within that 1% of difference, there is literally millions of codons that are different. So it kind of this using percentage numbers kind of hides or kind of blankets or distorts the what is in question.
So, do you think there are separately created humans as well?
Yeah, I mean, obviously.
Okay. So, how many humans were separately created?
I would say one multiple for each race.
Multiple for each race. But each race was created separately with a
Yeah,
population large enough that they would be sustained.
yeah. Because you can't have just two people, because that steamrolls into incestual Down syndrome real fast.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, why, if we're created separately, why why would that be the case instead of one population that just diverged?
Well, there's no actual evidence for that. So if you were to ask a evolutionist or even a Christian for them to present a transitional between the African races and the Asian races, they wouldn't be able to give you one. And of course, this is the story they believe. But the genetic evidence shows that this isn't true. They'll claim that the Japanese or the Asian races and the African races are clade cousins, and again they draw these lines based on the evolutionary precept. So they
Okay.
don't actually have any genetic transitionals. They might have mixed races, but that's mixed race. This is it's obfuscating the question. It's asking how do you get many out of one, not many into one.
So, do you not think mutations can happen?
Well, of course, mutations can happen. I just don't think mutations can construct or develop anything,
Why not?
because mutations are errors, and errors are uh, destructive. They are disorder. That's how you get
So,
cancer.
well, that, yeah, but that's not a mutation that gets passed along. That's different a little bit.
Well,
Um,
no, but it's the mutations that lead to cancer. Cancer is just like your immune system isn't working, and the mutations that led to the cancer is what gets passed on. So of course, the actual disease itself doesn't get passed on, but the mutations that led to the disease do.
okay. I mean, I get, yeah, sometimes there are you can have a genetic predisposition for cancer, sure.
Yeah.
Um, so why would, so okay? Oh, that's what I was going to ask. What what, not, maybe not percentage? What would you look for to say you are actually related in genetically? Like you and another human
Mm.
um came. Well, actually, let me take this back. So let's say we have these, four or five separately created groups of humans, or however many it is. I don't know how many you would say there are, but let's say we have these four or five, this number of separately created groups of humans. What would you look for among them? Because they would all have different DNA. Otherwise, you would have the same problem we were talking about with the inbreeding. They'd have to have some different DNA. So, what would you look for to say they're related and not separately created?
Well, we will look at the millions of genetic markers which are related. So there are genetic markers which that 0.2% or 0.1% of the Irish. Those are millions of markers which the Irish are going to share in common, but they do not share in common with that of the Japanese. So the Japanese are going to share those millions of genetic markers among themselves, which they themselves do not share with the Irish.
Okay. Um, but the Irish have different genetic markers also from, say, the the Germans.
Yeah, they do.
Are they separately created?
Yeah, absolutely.
So so Germans and Irish are separately created.
Yeah.
How many groups of humans were separately created?
Oh my, I wouldn't know because there's
Just
many
just
groups.
just a guess.
Well, for example, look at the Philippine areas. Let me. I can't. I was gonna. I'm trying to do like. I still think I'm StreamYard, so I was gonna present something to show you what I mean.
You should be able to share your screen. There's a present button down below.
Okay. Okay, I see it. Give me a second, and I'll get you for like a map of what I mean. Because this is like some of the races are very compact within niche areas. Here, give me a second. I'll get you that image. You know what? I probably won't find it. I have like it is somewhere within like all my folders. Because like I keep a bunch of folders for like every subject. But like I haven't been doing like evolution talks, so that's kind of been lost, in the ether of the unit of my computer.
Sure. Um,
But
if you could just give me like, is there hundreds of
I
separately?
for example, if you look to like the area of the Indonesias, you have like these close proximity races. For example, Indonesians, Taiwanese. Why people might think they look the same because they're the stereotype. All Asians look the same. They are very different. You have like different races like within like mm, what what we would consider just within like a state or a county of each other. So like if you just go down the state, you'll find like I'm talking like American states here. Like if you go down like to a different state, it would be a whole different race, and that's kind of like the Asias. Like even like some islands would have their own. And I'm not sure if you've been to like the Philippines. They have like millions of islands or
Yeah.
thousands.
I mean, I haven't been there, but I know they have a lot of islands.
So yeah, so like even with those some of those separate islands, if you go island hopping, you'll find a different race within just a couple of island hops.
Okay. S- And why couldn't that just be? I mean, so do you not agree that um like an isolated population might change
It
to
it would change. It can only change one way, and it can only change towards entropy. All change is towards entropy. All non-order change. Coming from like intellectual.
so there's no way you could have a mutation that could help in a specific
No,
environment.
no, there could be mutations that might consider beneficial. Sure, there could be beneficial mutations, but there's no such thing as constructive mutations. So you'll never find constructive mutations. You'll find beneficial, but beneficial is subjective. So I could have like uh, a disease that makes me more attractive, but I'm still dying of cancer. For example, I could have a disease that gives me a bigger jaw, but and women might find that attractive, but ultimately as it's just me having Down syndrome.
Okay. So what's a constructive mutation?
A constructive mutation is a well, there's no such thing. But
Well,
if it
what would a
was,
constructive mutation be if it existed?
it would be mutations that actually build upon the genetic code towards something useful. Towards, for example, taking a feather to or a fingernail to a feather, that would be constructive. Taking one protein to another protein.
Okay. So, like if we have, can bacteria have constructive mutations?
Come again?
Bacteria.
No, there's no. There's been examples of beneficial mutations, but never of constructive mutations. So there's been mutations in which like a bacteria has benefited from having its genes turned off. Yeah, turning off of genes might be beneficial, but it is not constructive.
Okay. So what about? So I've heard there's now a bacteria that can consume nylon. Have you heard of that?
Uh, Actually, it turns out they could always consume nylon. They even dug on ice. For example, bacteria that supposedly live thousands of years ago, and they also had those same genes to consume nylon. And what they're doing, it's not exactly eating the nylon raw. What they're doing is using pre-existing genes to break down the nylon into carbon, edible edible carbon. So they're using genes to break down the nylon into edible carbon, and then they eat that carbon. But
Okay.
they always had that, and we know they always had that because they dug in the ice, and for bacteria that was supposed to live million thousands of years ago, and they have the same genes.
Okay. I had one more question, and this is like completely different than anything we've talked about so far. But
Shoot.
some one time, I think actually I think it's happened more than once. But you've implied that leftists and atheists are basically the same thing.
Oh,
Is
come
that
again?
is that accurate? Is that something you believe?
Sorry, I didn't hear the question.
That leftists and atheists are basically the same thing.
Yeah, they basically tend to like gravitate towards one another.
Okay.
Well, because let's say if you're a communist, right? You're not going to gravitate towards the work of Friedman. You're going to gravitate towards the works of Karl Marx. So it's an interest of ideology, because ultimately communism, just as well as monarchy, anarchy, libertarianism, all of these ideologies, Christianity included, have to ground their ideology somewhere. And of course, leftists don't want to ground their ideology towards God. Atheists don't want to ground their atheists don't want to ground their ideology towards God because that would be a contradiction. So they have to swing towards Darwinism, and Darwinism tends to swing left.
Okay. But it's not 100% across the board. That's just the general trend.
Yeah, it's just a general trend. You
Okay.
still have, yeah, because you have people like Pine Creek, who try to be right wing and atheists at the same time, but they can't, because if you're going to be an evolutionary atheist, you still can't reject the possibility of man evolving into women. So why is he not affirming men that transitioning? If he was truly an evolutionist, he would affirm male to female transitioning.
Well, hold on a second. Um. So, are you saying that when, like, if you have a trans man, it was a woman that evolved into a man?
Well, this that do you know who Pine Creek is?
I'm familiar with him. I'm aware of him. I haven't watched any of his stuff,
Okay.
but
Uh,
I know he's not a trans.
yeah,
He's a trans
he's like,
woman. But I'm not. I'm asking about something you said.
yeah.
Um.
Well, I'm saying in the context of him, being a atheist right winger. So he's not being consistent with his worldview, because if you're going to be atheist, if you're going to be an atheist and be consistent with evolution, and if you're okay with saying, look, an ape can become a man, What's to stop you from saying that a man can become a woman? So it's a contradiction in his worldview. So Pine Creek is being a hypocrite here. So this is why atheists tend to swing left because they're a little bit more consistent than Pine Creek would be. So it's hypocritical, Pine Creek.
Okay. So, so what you're saying is that like if people who support atheists who support trans, they're doing so because they think men can evolve into women and women can evolve into men.
No, no, I'm saying that they're more consistent than the atheists who tend to be right wing. People like Pine Creek who deny that men can become women.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I just don't see how what is how, I'm
Oh,
not I don't see where you're drawing the line between trans
oh,
people and evolution.
no, I'm just pointing out the odds of conflict of interest of being like an atheist who is right wing, like Pine Creek, and an atheist who is left wing.
Huh. So, I mean, why can't what I don't see what the contradiction is. Um
Well,
what
because
why can you not say there's no god but still be like, well, biology, my understanding of biology is my understanding of biology, and it's that, chromosomes or whatever.
yeah, but I just point out like people who Pine Creek is still an evolutionist, so he still believes in evolution,
Right.
which is to say a monkey, an ape, can become a man. So if he's going to affirm that, there is no reason for him to deny that it is possible for a man to evolve into a woman.
Well, I mean, so like the a monkey, like there wasn't a monkey that like started out as a monkey and then grew up to be a man. That's not what anybody believes. You know that, right?
Yeah, I know, but the but Pine Creek would still have to affirm that slowly, over generations, men could become more effeminate, and then would like eventually there would be this this population of males who evolve into females, but can still have offspring with male this new male to female uh, uh, I don't know, I would say this breed. So he
Okay.
would he would still affirm, down the road of evolution, there could be this offshoot population of male to female transitions that could reproduce.
Okay. Okay. I think I see what you're saying. So so okay, I just wanted to ask that question because you implied that like all leftists are atheists or all atheists are leftists, and I was like, that's not the case, and I was curious if you were like, no, that is the
Ah,
case, and if they're not, they're lying to themselves or something.
no, I was just doing that to trigger people like Aiden.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's been about an hour, and that was the last question I had. I'll probably rewatch this at some point and see if I can do come up with some more ideas. And if I have any more questions, I'll try to set another one of these up or something. Maybe.
Go. I'm always happy to do this because I'm basically canceled from like every debate channel. I'm pretty much blocked everywhere at this point.
Sure. Well, I mean, I don't do debates. I'm not interested in debates. I just want to understand what people think.
Yeah, that's cool. It's like people are very prideful, about their positions. People aren't willing. They're not looking for what is true. They're looking for what affirms their worldview.
Sure. Yeah. And no, I just I'm not even looking for. I mean, I'm interested in what is true, but I'm not looking to affirm my worldview or change anyone else's. I just want to know. Like, you had some interesting ideas, and I was like, well, what's that mean? And I just want to know more about it.
Yeah, it's kind of complicated because a lot of this is just like lost knowledge or lost in translation, and most of the mainstream is just Christians dominating with I think is a false concept of God. But you know,
Sure. Oh, how? So where did you come up with this concept of God? Like, did you come up with that yourself, or did you? Are there others people that like you followed and they proposed this idea and you're like, yeah, that makes sense.
oh yeah, like I always say, I'm following the oldest religion. I'm not the first person to follow chaos. Basically, all archaeological history says chaos has always been like the ultimate. It is only recently, within the last 2,000 years, that the Christians have really become the mainstream.
Right. No, I mean, like, is there someone alive today that like, or recently like wrote some books or something, and you were like,
Oh,
or did you
mm,
just like figure this out yourself and like through looking at archaeological papers or something?
uh, I think it would be just me because like I watched archaeological documentaries, but that's about it. I couldn't point to somebody say, "Oh, this guy influenced me."
Okay. Huh. Okay. Well, I think that's it.
All right, it's good talking to you.
Yeah, you too.
All right, see ya.